Thanks.
I know it's late, so I appreciate you coming on the show. But dude, yeah, I mean, of course, we checked out the the Frostbite Orckings track. I know it's people have been talking about it because it seems like a project that kind of came out of nowhere, and I remember seeing it in my feed first and being like, oh, that's some WoW video, cool, and I didn't check it out at that point. I know it was, and then I got an email from your guys, whoever manages your guys' socials and emails, and I was like, an AI metal band, like that's legit and has like a whole brand behind it. That's not, like of course there's AI music, like I've seen Dabots and the AI generator, but you guys are doing something on like a next level with this. So if you don't mind, just give me a little bit of backstory, I guess, of how this project started and why it exists and how you guys got to the idea of let's make an AI metal band and make this like as real and legit as possible.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It's really exciting to talk in this role. I mean, I'm not a part of Frostbite Orking. As you can see, I'm not an orc.
Yeah,
I'm more like in a
I can know.
producer role. Yeah, perhaps more like the whole world around this band is called the metalverse, and it's like a fantasy world where not only orcs could live, but perhaps other species as well.
Okay.
And my role is more like I don't know, perhaps a little bit of a producer part, perhaps a little bit of like a guitar teacher for the guitar players, perhaps also a little bit of a muse for the actual learning of the AI behind the bands. Yeah, and the Frostbite Orkings and Guardians of Time, that first single is just the first piece of music where we want to say hello to the world
Right.
and show some AI generated heavy metal.
Okay, dude. Yeah, no, that's great. So, like, where did this start from? Like, when it comes to the project itself, besides, of course, the band, which are all real life orcs. When it comes to the back end producer, like, do you guys have like a team behind? Is it just you? Like, what are the details with that? Because this seems like a very thought out project. You know what I mean? It's not just like, hey, here's this random thing we tried our best. Like, you guys are doing stuff that like labels will set everyone else up, like professional bands, to do.
If you say so, I will not say anything else, of course. I think there is a complete team behind it, and what most people in the team have in common that they both like or are musicians, so they both like music and computer science and AI and everything behind it. So for me personally, I'm also a blueprint for that double role, and for me, it's quite an exciting project to be part of because, heavy metal and as a musician and AI and software development are kind of the things that I like most.
Hmm.
Besides football, but that doesn't fit into a Frostbite Orking band. So
Well,
that's a
maybe
good.
they might want to go on the in the tundra and play some football in a music video and hang out.
Let me write that down just for
There,
a second. No.
there you go. Already getting AI ideas for the world. So how many people do you have on the team, like excluding the band members?
Yeah, I mean, there are software developers, there are computer linguists, and there are tons of musicians because perhaps something like a disclaimer I can directly say in the beginning, because I mean, it's a term that's used quite frequently these days, of course. And for us, it's very important that we build everything we build in a like way that we can also live with and look into the mirror. So we do not want like to harvest the internet just for music that's out there without knowing who did it and just put it into new songs. So everything you hear is learned and trained by team members. So
Okay.
there's no copyright related material from anybody else but from Metalverse team members. So
Okay.
that's the way how we do it. And I don't know if I count everybody who's had some input into just that first band,
Yeah.
we'd be somewhere between 10 and 20 people.
Wow.
But on the software development side, it's around 5 or 6 people that actually contribute to something that we call the machine and which composes the songs actually. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's and I'm glad to hear that too, and I'm sure a lot of people are glad to hear that because where you're getting the music from, right? Like it depends what you're learning it from, right? If it's just a robot listening to, Amon Amarth songs or melodic death metal songs all day, it can be like you don't know when it's going to get too close to the song and kind of go over bounds, or then you have to deal with like, oh, well, like is it really its own thing? So it's good that you guys are like have a set of musicians that go in there and basically set the parameters of what can be used in that sense. And then I guess the AI, forms things itself, which I'll get into that process with you in a minute. But what are your guys, I guess, so are you guys like all software engineers that basically came into this that just love music? Like, were any of you in bands before and stuff like that? What's your guys' background, I guess, as a team?
Yeah, so many of us played in bands or play in bands. Some of us just like music by listening to it and are not musicians. For example, the lead computer linguist who's like responsible for that the machine can write lyrics that actually make sense or that fit into a rhyme scheme or that support certain feelings or moods. Also plays piano, but he's not like a professional heavy metal musician. But my personal background, for example, I'm a singer and guitar player. I also play and toured for 15 years with a band called Van Canto, where we do like metal a cappella.
Oh, shit, okay.
Something that's not so usual as well. So
Right.
I somehow tend to do things around heavy metal that perhaps are not too usual. So that's why I said I'm also a bit of a guitar teacher for the rhythm guitar player of the Frostbite Orckings. And there are several team members that have more background like in the drumming area. Also we have strict composers that are not like musicians themselves who play the actual stuff, but worked for example for game development studios when it comes to composing. And when it comes to chord progressions that sound heroic, and I mean, I could talk in detail for hours. I don't want to go too far and just take it step by step. But yeah, the team is quite. It's not like we all have the same background, but it's also a mixture of the styles that we like and the background that we have personally.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense because again, like seeing the quality even of what you guys release. Like I was for a project I never heard before. I'm like, okay, where are these guys? Like there has to be knowledge or previous experience to like a higher professional degree, or some kind of whatever label backing that's like high up there. That's like, hey, let's start this. So that makes a lot more sense that you guys have been in the industry in your own various ways for a while, and also are of course software developers and things like that. So it makes sense how that all kind of comes together. What made you guys just want to like just be like, hey, the world needs an AI metal band? What was that discussion and thought process like?
I mean, I could come up with great stories like sitting together in a bar and some guy coming up with, hey, let's found an AI metal band. It's not that way. I mean, personally, for me, it's just a topic that's been with me for the last decade almost. Just because I'm interested in, and I'm also a songwriter. So I always had the feeling that when I write the third or fourth or fifth album, that somehow I compare the songs I'm just writing with songs I've already written. And that's basically what every composer somehow does when you are on stage and you get feedback. You automatically tend to write songs on the next album that are perhaps a little bit alike those that were accepted very well by the audience. And the closer you get into that, the more you see that there is structure in composition and structure in production. And of course, there's a lot of technology, especially around heavy metal production anyway, since a decade or since 15 years. So the romantic thing of guys just coming together in the rehearsal room and putting one microphone in the middle of the rehearsal room and everything sounds perfect. I think with Fear Factory in, I don't know, 2002, this romantic part was gone. So it's just a natural progression. It's not that it came overnight and wow, great idea. It's just more a progression of the world of songwriters, musicians, and computer guys. Yeah.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, because that's why I definitely want to have you on the shows, of course, talk about the project and just talk about, I guess, like, AI, because I mean, I'm sure, you keep up with it. I have been even keeping up with it as a person that has no business, dealing with, software things at all, but just keeping up with how AI art has evolved over the years, which I remember seeing that for the first time. And I was like, this is how, You know what I mean? Like, this is otherworldly. Like, how does this exist in the modern day where you can type a prompt in and
Yeah.
it'll computer, artificially generate something based on previous images and based on knowledge of the internet? Like Chat GPT coming out, I was like, what? Like, how? Like, this stuff is mind blowing to me. And just how fast it's been. I'm like, jokingly, yeah, I guess metal bands will get there too. We won't. My job's gonna get replaced real fucking soon. So I'll just chat, enjoy, the organic stuff that I can give you until I'm just sitting here and I'm AI. There's even AI VTubers on Twitch and stuff now, which it's like the span that this stuff has evolved within in such little time it blows my fucking mind. Like, I joke about it, but I'm like, yeah, in a year or two, there's just gonna be AI metal bands, and that's gonna be it. But is that becoming more realistic every day?
Yes, definitely. I mean, and you're totally right with your feeling and assumption that everything goes way faster than we expect. I mean, all these technological cycles like that tend to become shorter and shorter. So if you think in innovation and think like, oh, in 10 years we will be able, somebody will tell you, no, it's not in 10 years, it's like next year. Uh, so I see it, yeah, I see it. But I'm very optimistic about it. I'm not at all like a pessimistic guy in terms of, oh, we will all lose our jobs. I
Mm,
mean, this story has been especially with music and especially with metal music also since years. So
mm,
digital audio workstations are killing studios, and plugins are killing hardware effects, and
right.
drum plugins are killing real drummers, and autotune is killing real singers. So there's still so much great bands around and great musicianship. I think this won't change with whatever new approach somebody has. You will still be able to just pick a acoustic guitar and sing a great tune if you're able to
Right.
do it without
Yeah.
autotune.
Well, yeah, because it does. It's all about evolving with the times and the evolution. I think that is great. Like, technology helping advanced creativity, right? I think is a beautiful process that people can. I mean, even what I do, I sit at home and I write everything from scratch, and I can program drums. 20 years ago, that's impossible. I'm a guitarist. Like, you play the guitar, you go to the studio, you find a drummer, you find all this stuff. I still have to find a vocalist for now, yeah,
Mhm.
at least until that gets replaced. But it's something that wasn't available, and you can be so creative with those outlets. And of course, they can be scary. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen, like, it was trending on Twitter, the whole, like, people are now able to use, like, even like Kanye's voice. Of course, that's the person example that people pick, but like celebrities' voices, and literally just input, the words, and they will basically play that voice sample and sing within it, almost perfectly. Like, sure, people can distinguish because it's a little choppy, but it's
Mhm.
wild how people's voices can be replicated through AI nowadays. And that is definitely something that, of course, in the space can be misused eventually. I don't think it's going to be misused really in the music scene for a while, because labels won't let it. They're definitely going to be like, you're not using our artists, our artist's voice unless you have the proper, licenses or whatever, the legalities to do it. But yeah, when it comes to that space, are there cons that could arrive eventually in your eyes? Like, there's pros and cons. What's your balance, I guess, of pros and cons with the whole AI music world?
Yeah, I think what's important is to somehow include the audience. Like, it's not just
Mm,
you tell them this is the new thing. Forget all about what you loved before. You can still listen to Iron Maiden's Power Slave, although it's, I think, from '84 or something,
yeah,
without being feeling bad about it if you really like it, because it's just a great piece of art and a great piece of music. So I think it's important to point out that it's perhaps just like a new tool for creativity, just like
mm,
many other computer systems like drum computers or like chord progression generators, which are already part of every DAW.
yeah,
I mean, this is just an additional tool. And I think, especially with heavy metal, it's also about having fun listening to it. I mean, I'm totally fine if somebody listens to a Frostbite Orckings song like on a Spotify playlist and just thinks this is a great song, and he doesn't care about technology or where it comes from.
right,
Just like you wouldn't care listening to another song and then perhaps pointing out, oh, I think there they used autotune and this was the part where the drummer couldn't actually make it, so they programmed the bass drum. I mean, everything is happening anyway.
Right.
And as long as the result is entertaining and giving you a certain feeling or certain mood that supports perhaps your current situation in life because you feel better after listening to a song, then it's totally fine. It doesn't matter how this song was created or where it came from.
That's awesome. No, yeah, I do agree with that. And hopefully this stuff will be used for more good and creatively good things than sometimes malicious intent by people eventually, because it is insane software and all this stuff that exists. I mean,
absolutely, but we also said, I mean, it will happen anyway.
Right.
There will be AI music and more AI music, and we all don't know how much AI music is already around, because if somebody's just good at it
true.
And will not,
Do you think there are hidden AI bands where people do you think even maybe labels have started using that stuff without anyone knowing with some of their bands? Do you think it's possible?
I don't think to that extent that we are building, at least I hope. But I'm sure that when it comes to just like programming backings for the next pop hit, it's at least very much software guided. It's a question where you draw the line if something is AI or not. I mean, AI is just one big topic, but there are many technical like subtopics that you could cluster into that AI buzzword, where other people say, no, that's not AI. Most people think that only machine learning from or deep learning from the internet is considered AI. I have a different opinion on that, obviously, because we don't do it, but still have AI bands. So I think there's a lot of technology around that people are not aware of and that they don't or shouldn't be aware of in the view of the musicians or the producers. And I think we're very transparent with just labeling this is AI metal, so we don't try to hide it and just create like hundreds of new metal bands where nobody knows where they actually come from. I mean, they themselves are surely inspired, just as musicians are inspired when that old story, standing under the shower and suddenly a melody strikes you and then you write a song about it. I mean, where does that come from? Do we know? What's that inspiration? Is this our intelligence, or is this something that we just heard 3 days ago and we think, oh, I invented it, but I just copied it? That's the same topics. It's with AI bands like with real people, I guess.
Right. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, man. When it comes to the process, let's talk about the first song too. Again, Jeff, if you haven't checked it out, Frostbite Orckings, Guardians of Time. Which again, I watched it on stream as well, and I was like, "There's no it's again." But I'm still struck by AI art. Like that's still getting me, and I've I've used it for things too, and all that stuff. But it's like seeing how well the song came together. Like the riffs were great. I was listening to it, and I was like, "This is a dope melodic modern metal track." It wasn't like oh, here's a copy paste Amon Amarth or a copy paste this specific band. I was like, no, like this is, it just has that fun melodic metal kind of sound to it with great sounding vocals. It didn't sound choppy either. Like it sounded like it was done well. Even the sampling, the mix and all of that was very modern, very professional. And the video too. So I know there's a lot to unpack with just this track. So I guess to start out, like, what is your approach from ground zero? So starting from nothing, you have the idea to write the song. And how did you get to the point of first just having the audio? Let's start with that. So from no audio, no song written, to writing the song to audio. How's that process like for you guys?
Yeah, that's basically the question that sums everything up. So I try to stay focused with my answer. So basically what we are doing is that we're not learning sounds that are like frequencies or anything that we will put together to new frequencies, but we rather learn into different layers of a composition that we call like creativity layers. So for example, we learn into song structures. How does a song work, like with chorus, verse, and perhaps before the third chorus, you have something like a bridge. So this is one of the layers. And then we build all the layers on top, like chord progressions, basic like pulse of the drums, Then it goes into more details with which patterns in the bass drum should be in one part, and then perhaps doubled by rhythm guitar and bass. So like the interplay of musicians in a real band. So this is really like a stacked approach where we learn structures and train our models with content for that specific layer. It's not that we just throw a word at the machine and then the machine would harvest the internet for, I don't know, melodic death metal or something like that. It's really like we're training these different layers, which also gives us the possibility to switch these layers. For example, if we have like 3 or 4 bands, think of different styles, then of course it's quite easy to have some crossover with other composition approaches, like a guitar player playing like a, I don't know, perhaps like a rock band guitarist with a drummer that's deep into melodic death metal and just playing 60 notes all the time. Wow. So this is for the composition part.
Yeah. So a lot of layers, a lot of variables then. So that, how long did it take you guys to like get all the variables implemented before you were actually able to be like, okay, generate, you know, final product from all these variables, from all the different types of song structures, and even including, which I guess I'll ask after, like sampling and actually getting the recordings done. But like, how long did that process take to get all of those resources to input to start to get final songs for you guys?
So some friends and family members are working on this for some years now, but only part-time.
Right.
And since the November 21, we all went full-time. So to have that result of that very first song, it's, like I said, 10 to 15 people working on this for more than a year. And it's also the case, like if I press the button on the machine, it will instantly write me like new songs with lyrics and parts, and everything is totally fine. But there's still like an auditing from us, like, oh, this is a great verse, this is a great chorus, let's combine them. So the full automation where the machine will just like throw out a complete album with the push of a button is still something in progress, where we also need those first singles and the feedback, and we are of course continuing programming and everything. And for the sounds that you hear, those are also completely produced by us. So every drum hit that you hear was once sampled in a high-class studio with the best equipment you can imagine.
So those aren't previous use samples, those aren't plugged, like you guys are doing that all in-house. Yep. That's fucking impressive. Because professional bands don't do that. You know, like nowadays, they don't take the time to do that. Yep. They're just like, what neural DSP thing can I download, and what Get Good Drums sample can I use for all the drums, right? Like all custom hits. That's because it also sounds great. Like, do you have someone or a few people on your team that are producers, or in the sense like mixing engineers that have experience in that?
Yeah. So yes, we have, and this first single was mixed by hand. So this is also something that I can openly say. So we create like stems and single tracks, but then we went to a human producer who did like a mix, just he would do with a regular band. This is something that can be automated in the future as well, but it's not possible like with one song to define a full mix setup that will be working for every kind of song. If you take like a more halftime song or really like blast beat stuff, you need other mixing parameters. And this is something that will be added in the future. So for that first song, our machine wrote a lot of parts and a lot of lyrics and could produce them to the level where we could take the single tracks, give them to a mixing engineer, and he would do like the final touch on it. But if you listen to the machine, I think you would say it's like 90% of the sound that you hear. Perhaps like if you have a really great mastering engineer and he puts a little bit of compression to it, so it's not like a different thing. But to reach that level, currently we are still mixing by hand, and it's work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, once you guys start to automate mixing, I mean, you can sell that without even just on its own thing. You can sell automated mixes as its own project and probably make a bunch of fucking money just with that program. Like that's a genius technology. Which, sorry to my mixing friends who might have a harder time getting clients at that point. Then, but that's blowing my mind. And again, chat, in case you're just joining us, we're joined today with Stefan of Frostbite Orckings. It is the I'd say first like legit AI metal band, because of course there's AI metal that has existed like DABbots and that stuff as I mentioned, but like DABbots feature off of Archspire and other things, and it's this is like the first in-house from ground up actual like AI that's creating all of this technology, which I understand why it's taking you guys a long time to create the technology, because once you have it and you feed it enough things and variables and you understand it well enough and it understands you guys again in an artificial format, you guys can probably start getting to the point where you can print an album like a week, and if it can get to that point where you guys it's that good and the AI is that well trained, like how often do you think you could literally pump out whole albums if in a perfect world?
Yeah, I don't. So if it works like it currently works, I mean, you can produce music in Frostbite Orking style like 24/7. But perhaps it's more from the quality. It's perhaps more like if you listen to a band in a rehearsal room. So there will be some parts where you think, okay, the drummer is just practicing something, and then the guitar player joins him, and then there's perhaps a magic moment where you say, okay, now it's really like they're interplaying with each other and interacting with each other, and now it has a certain feel. I mean, that was a big part of the training to actually have feeling in that, for example, in the drums. So if you compare Frostbite Orkings drums to drums of whatever real production, I'm quite sure that we are more off the grid, like time-wise, than a lot of professional productions who are just putting everything on the computer exactly. So also a thing where you can say like AI perhaps also at some point it brings back more feeling, like organic.
So you guys are programming more humanization with the AI than a lot of bands are doing in their own music.
We're at least not programming it away. That's the thing. Yeah. So
that's funny. That's crazy to think about how music has gotten to that point where robots are being more realistic than people are with their recording, which it does seem real. Like, again, I listened to the track and I was like, what the fuck? Like it blew my mind that, of course you guys have human parameters that came in and created all the variables, but that an AI is spitting this out in a way that just seems seamless and seems so real. Like it does sound more real and humanized than a lot of
and it really works also for the team members. I mean, the machine really creates stuff where I say, wow, that's a really great idea. It's not that I recognize things that we trained, because we played like really hours and hours of drum material, guitar material, like to define the boundaries of a certain style. So I think Frostbite Orkings would not make a good fit when they sound like, I don't know, an 80s hard rock band. So they are somehow in their area, in their style area, and it's really hours of material that went into the training that we had to produce ourselves to be sure not to come in any copyright issues, and also to have a certain quality output.
Right.
And I mean, the most exciting part and also the most difficult part is vocals, actually.
I was just about to ask, what is the hardest trick? Because even guitar programming exists. I feel like that one came later than like bass. Like bass has been around for a while. Drums is, people use it all the time. You don't even notice. No one would notice the difference really, unless you're a mix engineer. And then guitar, I feel like still is getting there, but there's a few good ones and a few good guitar programs that can do the job. But vocals, how are you guys doing that and making that so seamless? Because that has to be the hardest one, and by far the most time consuming to make.
Absolutely.
Like a voice make sense, make the lyrics time make sense, make the rhythmic flow make sense, and screaming too. Like that's crazy. Yeah, can you go in more detail on that, vocals specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it is the hardest part, but it's also the part where we had the feeling nobody really tried it from start to end because people were perhaps just too, I don't know what's the English word, like that,
Scared or
yeah, or
intimidated?
that the task is too big that you don't even
Intimidated,
touch
yeah.
it. So, um, and I mean, it's helpful that the frontman of the Orkings is not a really like great singer with a great variety of like he's just growling. So it was
Right.
like easy to have him in that training camp, let's call it that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he just recorded hours and hours of words, syllables,
Wow.
parts, and the machine knows how to arrange them, take them, put them together,
So
make them longer,
so he had to
shorter.
go like A E I or like nonstop, go over or like words A
And that's
and
basically it. Just these four vowels, and then we're done. No, yeah,
yeah.
exactly like this. Only like for days and weeks. Yeah.
Wow, that must be exhausting for the dude too. My God, that's a lot of.
Well, I mean, if you are on tour as a singer, I think it's more exhausting. But
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there you go. AI is easier than touring as a vocalist. That's easier on your vocals, man. So wow, it's just yeah. Again, because that I think shocks people the most, including I guess myself when I start to learn about this stuff, is that initial thought of like like you press a single button with nothing else and then the computer makes this, right? But of course it's the idea of setting the parameters of recording the samples yourself and actually, literally making all the limits of, well, the vocalist said an A E and an A and I and O U and then he said these words and you can utilize those. And then you're saying the parameters of what makes the most sense of ways to kind of mix those things on average and what makes sense with this. And then those variables affecting other variables and then variables like tempo. Like how miserable was it if you guys had to take this song and bring it up 10 dB or not 10 dB, 10 BPM? Like, is that a whole process or have you gotten it to the point where you've made the variables so distinct and tight where you can change things like BPM in a song you've already generated easily?
that's one click. And also, if you want like the chords in the chorus, like the other way around, it's just another click, and the melodies will adjust. And if you say it's too much syllables, and please do lyrics only with like 4 syllables per line, it's just another click. So this is the machine already is that far. Yeah.
Oh, dude, this is blowing my fucking mind that it's that far. Because I would assume, 10 dB, rhythm, cadences changes, rhythms change, melodic. You guys just click. You're at that point. Click of a button.
Yeah, I mean, if you say like 40 or 50 BPM, then perhaps there are some limitations where you cannot listen to you don't understand the lyrics anymore because there are glitches.
Okay.
So there are limitations as always, but if 10 or 20% would not be a problem at all.
Fuck, man, that's okay. That's crazy. That's what. Yeah, chat's also like this is probably the most educational thing we've done on stream. We're usually watching random deathcore things or memes. So thank you for going on the stream as well, because and that's again why I wanted to have you on the stream because this stuff it's so not just entertaining like watching it and listening to it, but it's so interesting because this is real. Yeah, this is real life. This is the path that the music industry has to deal with. That's what I do love things that disrupt the flow of the music industry because it makes them have to wake up and be like, this is happening now. And these are creative tools that we have to adapt for, that we have to understand and understand how people utilize it and how bands are utilizing it and how we have to adapt because we can't be dinosaurs anymore, and follow the olden ways. So like disruptive technologies like this is crazy. And this particularly is so disruptive, again, positive in a creative way and people being able to use it in creative ways. And of course, hopefully people use it in good ways and not for malicious intent, especially with, technology. But that's absolutely fucking wild. So you guys have all this technology, you've built it over the years. You're like, what is well, let me ask this first. Video, because I don't want to skip out on the video because the video also was crazy. So how did you set up the parameters for the video? Because that's not then audio related, right? Like we discussed audio, we got that kind of sorted, which still blows my mind. How did you guys do the video?
Yeah, so not to disappoint you, but I think we are like 50% on the path where the video is directly created out of the musical parameters along the
Holy
way.
fuck, dude.
But on this video, it was like a manual job, just like mixing with 3D
Okay.
artists who actually did it. But that's on the road right now that the machine composes something, and you will see Folkvar and Alva, the guitar player, just moving along to that.
That. All right, we're living in 2050, man. We're in the future at this point. Okay, that's mind blowing. I mean, just the technology itself. So, like, you guys are utilizing this technology obviously in house and creating it all and pushing it forward in a healthy, organic way. Which again, you guys are creating all the samples, which I respect and appreciate too, and I'm sure everyone listening also appreciates that. Um, is this technology like? Do you think it's going to get to the point where there's going to be a website in like a couple years, 5 years, where it says generate song, band, and music video? Like, can it get to that point where just almost anyone can use it, just like how it's translated from AI art being this more technical thing that people have to know how to use it to they go on OpenAI or Open.ai or whatever it is and they click the generate button? Do you think this will also be able to eventually get to that point?
First of all, I have to say that I'm impressed how on spot your questions are. I mean, that's exactly the things where we have been discussing for weeks or months or years, and we are still discussing exactly the same questions. Um, I don't know. And it's not, I have to be honest, it's not that there's the big master plan like behind it where we exactly know where this is going. Perhaps there are even parts of that process that could be interesting for other musicians as well. For example, if you think about, I want to have that drum sound, and then we're perhaps offering something where you can create drums in a style authentic way and in a mix or production ready sound, and you just get a great drum track back, and then you take it to your own studio and do everything on your own with your own song. This could be an idea. We definitely want to have a certain part of the technology where fans of the band can directly influence the creative decisions of the machine, say for the next single or the next album. So rather than pushing a button, create a new song, I rather see buttons like, I want to have a little bit more ballad style, or I want to have a little bit more, I don't know, halftime, and then perhaps do some questionnaires or
Okay.
votings, surveys, like to decide together with the fans how the next song turns out, or perhaps create it part by part and then decide what's the best chorus for the verse that the singer has just written. This I see, if it's really that interesting, if you just throw out music without any limitations in size or amount. I don't think that the value of music is represented enough if this is the final vision. So for now, I'd say no. I'd rather have interfaces where people can directly interact with a band and not just giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down on
Right.
whatever YouTube, but having really input on the composition and perhaps contributing to the composition as well, or taking parts of the tracks that were just generated and writing real guitars for it, or real vocals just at your home studio. There's so many possibilities that perhaps real bands are not that interested in because they're just too busy with the album tour schedule, and the record company is always perhaps tending to keep all the rights as close as possible to them, so they can. I mean, I'm not that guy who says this is the music industry and this is us. I think nowadays, if you're making music, you're part of the industry, or your little industry yourself, because you can promote it in your stream or whatever, and you can record it in your home studio. So we're all part of the industry, but it's also perhaps up to us to make something that makes the industry more variable, or perhaps more achievable or more reachable for single producers as well, or for smaller bands. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the possibilities just with the technology of that and how intertwined the internet space is insane. You know, like the idea of prompts working. Just if my community is gonna be involved in the prompts, just know they're just gonna ask for breakdowns all day. So just be aware that you're basically gonna have like 50 different Lorna Shore songs next to each other. That's basically what they're gonna keep putting in. Okay.
I mean, the orcs are more, I think deep in their heart they are somehow power metal fans.
Okay.
But as Folkvar is not that versatile in singing, like, I don't know, an Eric Adams or Bruce Dickinson, he just growls everything and then it's melodic death metal. But there could be other styles where breakdowns may make way more sense than perhaps in a melodic death metal band. I would not say no.
I would not say no. And this is a bit of a forward thinking question, but just because, I mean, we're even streaming on Twitch and all that. Have you thought about the also possibilities, not just as which I think this way is so exciting. Like you have all this hype and excitement and you're releasing a song at a time. Have you thought about the possibilities of like going to a streaming platform, having like one of those 24-hour streams where a band is just always playing and like you mentioned prompts, like people in chat saying, this, and it's literally prompting the band in real time to write different things, which then generates a song, which I don't know, can be saved in whatever cloud or some shit that can't even be released. Have you guys thought at all about that space as well?
I mean, that's a very elaborated vision of like a final product already. We always thought like it would be cool if you have a possibility to have a look into the rehearsal room. Like there's a window and you know that there's a band rehearsing inside.
That's good. I like that.
And then you perhaps can prompt like, you want to hear that riff that they just created. Please take that riff and try to make a complete verse out of it or a chorus, or try to write a vocal line for that. So I think it's perhaps a little bit more guided, or also a little bit more chaotic in a way that the band just plays what the band plays. Like if you're in a rehearsal room with your band, you have like the guitar player who's always tuning and the drummer who's adjusting his pedal again. So it is never 24/7, like just the greatest output of all time. You need iterations. Also, if you're a real musician or an AI band, you need iterations and you need some kind of feedback or feeling, was this something good or not? So this is something where I really can see the vision coming together of people not only listening to it, but also influencing next steps or other parts.
Well, yeah, because I'm assuming even with this track, I'm sure it wasn't, after even getting all the variables, it wasn't like the first generate, push that probably prompted this one. I'm sure it probably took a few of you guys getting closer to like, okay, that's 90% there.
Yeah, and it was also like a mixture of different cycles. So like we, I don't know, I can count, I would say like 20 or 25 songs. And then we said, this is a great verse, but it was perhaps not created in the same song as the chorus was. And then we decided this has to be the verse, and now create another chorus for it. So it was also iteration. Okay. It was not like, I mean, just like you first start the software, you push the button and everything works. I think nobody ever wrote software like that.
Yeah,
you need some iteration.
Jesus, that's crazy, man. Well, I know it's late there, so I'm not going to take too much more of your time. I have a couple questions I definitely want to get while you're here. Number one, so I know there's the whole NFT aspect of some things, right, which is on the side of things. Now, I am super ignorant when it comes to NFT stuff. My chat usually roasts me about it quite frequently, and that's also because when it comes to that buzzword now, it's a buzzword nowadays, right? That a lot of people like to use in terms of like NFTs and all this, Web3, and of course a lot of people on the YouTube space or Twitch space, their experiences are very different because, in this space, when we here's our new crypto thing or NFT thing, the next day you see on Twitter the dude trending because, whatever fucking scam or thing related to it and some things like that, which I know is obviously not always the case in any capacity. But when it comes to the NFT stuff tied to this project, talk to me about it like I'm a 5-year-old. Like, if you can explain what the NFT portion of the project does, what's the importance of it for people, let's say we have no knowledge of this space, Web3, in as short as time as possible.
Okay, so the NFT aspect doesn't come to play when we're talking about the project Frostbite Orckings.
Okay,
it's coming to play when we're talking about the project Metalverse, which is a virtual world where different virtual bands will be part of that world.
Okay.
And The NFT aspect, we see it more like a user right. So it doesn't have to be NFT exclusively, and it won't be. So there will be other approaches to what we talked before. For example, log into a software where you can give feedback on the creative decision for the next Frostbite Orking single.
Okay.
You can do that by logging into a website with your account, or you can do it by logging into a website with your metalverse NFT.
Okay.
And perhaps you have a little bit early access, or we can directly track the creative input of a specific NFT owner to the extent that he was part of the decision for that chorus. So we see this more like a technical thing. It's not
Okay.
It's not a marketing thing. These are NFT bands. You can just listen to them on Spotify without ever having heard of crypto. But the metaverse part supports the NFT technology, but just as one possibility to be part of the process. It's more like a unromantic technical thing, but not the thing where we build the promotion around, or where we want to put people like give us your money and we don't give you anything back. This is not what we want.
No, I appreciate that explanation, because I think that's quite fair, and I'm glad. I understand how they overlap, but I'm glad that how you're explaining it is like its own thing. If you just, hey, you want cool music, here's your cool music, and that's it. And if you want to be more involved in that sense, you can do the NFT stuff and be involved in the metalverse. Cool name, by the way. Whoever coined that, good job. Right? I think that's fair, and I do appreciate that, because what I love is all the stuff you guys are doing and the excitement. And the same thing with, I see a lot of sometimes projects popping up and it being this exciting thing where it's like, here's this new technology or whatever it is, a new game even, right? It happens a lot in gaming. And it's eventually stops being about the game, and then eventually just all becomes like this, and the transactions and the NFT, like the blockchain side of things, which that's the thing I feel like a lot of consumers are scared of, because, sure, people that want to be involved with that, great, you get what is offered and it's delivered. No problem with that, right? It's a service, awesome. But when it gets too far in depth where it's like that seems to be the primary thing and all it's about, that's the thing where I know a lot of consumers of gaming, as well as now it's bleeding obviously more into music, do get discouraged. And it's less of like oh cool, here's monetization and NFT stuff and ways you can be involved, and more like oh shit, here's another thing where I just want to listen to the music, and sometimes people aren't able to enjoy that. So I'm glad how you're saying it is going to be its own separate thing that obviously overlaps in that higher level, right? But if you just want to follow a band and be a fan of it and listen to it and enjoy it, you don't have to worry about that stuff if you don't want to be involved.
And even in that project Metalverse, it will be totally possible to participate without having any crypto wallet. I think it's just more like the technical side of things. There are some things that, let's say, a programmable user right make things easier. Perhaps if you talk about rights for other bands, or if you perhaps talk about combination of rights, if you have like a Frostbite Orking access and you have an access for the next 3 bands, perhaps you are allowed to bring these user rights together. You could also do this with checks in a database. But this way you own the right because it's your NFT and you can perhaps transfer it to somebody else. But it's not like, it should not be used for promoting bands that actually create great music, if I may say so. Then it shouldn't be overlaid with technical discussions or discussions about blockchain or Bitcoin going down. I think it wouldn't be fair about the quality of the bands that we want to achieve.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you explaining that to me. And 2 more questions. First of all, are you guys big World of Warcraft fans? I'm assuming someone on the team is, or something. Where's all the orc stuff come from? Is that purely from Warcraft and WoW, like the inspirations?
There are some team members, but you are currently talking to the wrong person. So my gaming experience really goes like back into the 90s, where I played Frogger on my first PC.
Oh shit! Okay.
I'm the wrong guy to call. But of course, if you're in that metal world and you're creating, or you want to be part of some kind of a fantasy world with maps and everything, I mean, we all watched Lord of the Rings, I think, quite 100 times. So it's not only the World of Warcraft thing, but perhaps also Terry Pratchett and Tolkien and everything around those fantasy things.
Okay, dude, awesome. That's great. And I guess the last question, for you guys have released a song. It's doing very well. Congratulations on
you.
that as well. It's cool. It's something new. It's a great package. I hope to see it grow more and more. What are your guys' short-term plans? Because I know you guys have a lot of potential and big picture plans. But what's like your next steps? Is it just another track? Is it expanding? Are you gonna start to do a different band as well mixed in, or is it very much Frostbite Orckings? Get an album out. What's your guys' very near future plans for that?
Yeah, so the Frostbite Orckings are residing in a region of the metalverse that's called the Nocturnal North. I'm not kidding.
Good
it's
name.
Not that I know, and it's not that we got any money from you or something like that. It's just like we came up with a great name. And there are like 9 regions in the metalverse, so you can imagine that there will not be only one band, but we are thinking more of 9 bands. But for the short-term plans, of course, there were many requests also in the comments that said this song is great. Please don't be a one song project or something like that. And we put too much effort into it already and too much work to let it be a one song project. So there will be new songs, new singles, perhaps at one point even something in like an album size. And we want to work on that participation thing where people can directly influence the creativity of the band as well.
Awesome. Perfect.
I will not be able to say like, oh, this will be the date of the release of the next album, but we're just working the fast as we can, and then
that sounds great, man. Dude, that's exciting plans. I, as a consumer of metal music and a musician myself, am excited to see what you guys do and how you push the boundaries, because I think you guys have genius technology going on and very genius big picture ideas that I think people will have an impact if the music world and music industry wants it to or not, with what you guys are going with. And I'm a person that, again, like I've been a musician and playing this shit for all my life, and being even a YouTuber and content creator, like I'm always very excited to see things like this, because it's rare that a lot of cool, new, very forward thinking things, especially when it comes to technology, I think happens in the metal scene specifically. So it's great to see you guys doing that, and I think doing it in a level that hasn't been done before. So I wish you guys best of luck with all that. And of course, if you guys ever do a metalcore one and you need some collaborations with Nik, always feel free to reach out. I'm all here. I got you.
Yeah, then you have to be part of that troupe that brings the Frostbite Orckings out from the Nocturnal North so that you can reside there. Because
let's go. Bro, I'll be an elf.
It wouldn't be unfair for you to be in another region. That just wouldn't make sense.
I'll be an elf and orc. I don't give a fuck. You guys tell me what I gotta be in the world, man. We'll make it work. I think it'll be fun, man. But like I said, I'm very excited about what you guys are doing. So always feel free to keep me in the loop with what you guys got going on. I'm very interested. I know my community is as well. So thank you for coming on the show. I know it's late as well to talk about this, guys. Stefan from Frostbite Orckings, show them love again. Check out the brand new track Guardians of Time and keep up to date. What's the best place to keep up to date with you guys? Is it the website, YouTube, just internet usual kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's Orckings.org. So we the band has a website, and this is the best place to catch up with all news. But also the singer is on social media, quite active. And that's also good.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show and explaining everything. I'm excited for this, and if there's anything I can do on my side, always feel free to reach out, man. All right?
Thanks for having me.
All right. Anytime. Have a good one, dude. See ya.
Bye.